experience of baking experiments. As you can see, I am in my PJs because of this quarantine. So I'm just trying to enjoy the blessing of being home, even if I don't always want to be home. So today we are going to make muffins. Well, the recipe is a banana muffin. However, like, I'm gonna leave it the way it's supposed to be. So this recipe comes from, let me see, actually called Older Mommy Still Yummy. I am not a mommy, but I hope this is yummy. So the recipe calls for 1.5 cups of flour, 1 cup of rolled oats, not instant, 1/2 cup of white sugar, 2 teaspoons of baking powder, 1 teaspoon of baking soda, 1/2 tablespoon of salt, 2 large eggs, 1/4 cup of vegetable oil, 1/4 cup of milk, and 3 ripe bananas finely mashed. Most of those things will stay, some of them won't, but I'm halving the recipe because I don't need 12 muffins. So let's begin. So I'm gonna start with the wet ingredients first because I'm not using bananas. I'm actually using melons. We have melons left over from a couple of weeks ago and they are overripe, and as much as I would eat them now, why not use them as leftovers for the muffins? I have tried this with pancakes before and it has been pretty tasty, so I figure why not just try these now. I'm going to dump these in a blender. It's supposed to be, since we're having the recipe, 3 bananas. I'm thinking this may be 1.5 bananas.
Nope.
Dump that in with a little bit of the liquid. Then, because I'm halving the recipe and it's a 1/4 cup of milk, we are going to use 1/8 cup of milk, which is just 1 ounce. I'm using almond milk because that is my go-to. And then we are going to use, it says, let me see, how much was that sugar? It says 1/2 cup of sugar. I'm not using sugar. It needs a 1/4 cup, so I'm gonna just use honey. Let's measure this 1/4 cup as well as I can, which is probably not gonna be great. I figure I'll put this in with the wet ingredients just so I can just use the whole mash and put them in later. As much as I can get off of that. I will also say that honey is slightly acidic, so honey actually will work better with the baking soda in order to get rid of that alkaline type of taste. But I'm actually not going to be using baking soda, so just a fun fact. Okie dokie, so we're going to put this in until it finishes blending. Okay, that is ready to go. So that's gonna just sit to the side. We're gonna use this bowl here and we're gonna put the dry ingredients in. Because it's supposed to use 1.5 cups of regular flour, I am using 3/4 cup of almond flour. I want that extra protein in there since I'm gonna use this as my pick-me-up for the rest of the day. Okay, and then the recipe calls for, I believe, a cup of oats. So we are going to use 1/2 cup of oats, not instant. These are thick cut oats. I don't know if that really makes a difference. It just probably will take longer to cook through. Just mix that a little bit, mixy. And now the recipe calls for a teaspoon of baking soda and 2 teaspoons of baking powder. Because I don't have a lot of acidity in the recipe, I feel like I'll end up tasting the baking soda because, well, the acidity helps balance out the flavor of the alkaline. I'm just going to use baking powder. So the ratio is normally a teaspoon of baking soda to a tablespoon of baking powder. So adding that all together, the original recipe would have had 5 teaspoons of baking powder. So half that, it's 2.5. 2.5 teaspoons of baking powder in, just mixy. And then we will add about the recipe called for 1/2 teaspoon, so we'll do 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Okay, so now let's start adding the wet ingredients. So I am going to add parts of the wet mixture as we're going through. So just gonna kind of pour that around. I'd already created a well as I was going. Whoa. Sounds weird when you pour it. And I am now gonna crack an egg in. Yes, I am doing an egg again. I just think that I'm already changing the recipe so much by using melons that I'd like to keep something that'll help bind it all together. The recipe called for 2 eggs, so I'm just gonna use 1 egg, obviously, because I'm halving that recipe. That's the great thing about eggs, is that there is a fat component and there's a protein and water component. So one part can really help rise, the other part can really help moisten. So that's why an egg is so versatile with use in a recipe. Okay, I'm gonna take the spatula out and I'm going to switch to a fork to help basically scramble the egg inside and to help mix everything. And now I'm going to add that fat that is the coconut oil instead of the vegetable oil. Again, only an 1/8 cup. Also, the great thing about it is that there is saturated fats. Now, saturated fats aren't always good for you. However, there are some studies that say that coconut oil, because of the saturated fats, help decrease your free radicals. Now, everyone hears about free radicals, but what they really just do is that there are a couple of extra electrons on an atom that don't necessarily fill a shell, if you remember anything from chemistry and electron shells. So because those electrons are not filled in the shell, they want to, play around a little bit, try out the field. So they end up trying to match up and create toxic relationships, which affect your cells. So the great thing supposedly about coconut oil is that it helps decrease that. That is in part from some of these studies because of the saturated fat, but I think it's also because of the vitamin E that's in coconut oil. So here we go. That is all mixed and looks very glossy. So now we're going to switch to the pans. So while I'm filling these, I'm gonna let the oven heat up to about 400 degrees as the recipe says. So now let's start filling these. I'm looking at this recipe and the mixture, and it's looking more like a banana bread type of consistency in terms of how much liquid there is. And that could be partially because of the fact that melon is more water dense as compared to bananas. Bananas are a little more fibrous. So it may just be that that is what caused it to be so liquidy. So I'm gonna have to be kind of careful with this recipe. It may end up coming out a lot more watery than I want it to. So we'll just see what happens. So let me just get a spoon, spoony, and let's just start putting that into the muffin tins. Probably would be better to use muffin tins, I'm thinking. Actually, I probably didn't even need to use the almond milk. Probably would have had enough liquid on its own. So I'm gonna pop these in. These beautiful, overflowing, probably too much liquid muffins into the oven. So now we just have to wait about 20-25 minutes. And yeah, so we just wait. Okay, it has now been about half an hour-ish. So we're just gonna take them off and let them cool down now. So hopefully they are good. And I have a toothpick, looks good to me. Very little crumbs are sticking on the toothpick. So let me take them out. I'm gonna trust that they're all good. Hello to you too. Okay, and that is off. So we let that cool for about a couple of minutes. So they are not coming out of their containers. I think what it is that because there's so much liquid, it didn't really cook all the way on the inside either, but it does taste delicious. I know because I ate the 7th one that fell apart. So, what I am thinking of doing is what I did last time and just creating bars out of them. So I'm going to get a square inch pan, break all of them up, smash it down, score it, and bake it, and then put it in the refrigerator, because that really helped me last time setting it in the refrigerator for a while to keep its shape. Okay, so just break it up. It almost looks like oatmeal, actually. I guess that would be a really good oatmeal, or really good pancakes. Actually, maybe I can make a crust out of it and fill it with something. I do actually have a chocolate mousse that I made out of pie that did not work out very well. I didn't like the crust, so I kept the pudding filling and made it into an ice cream. So maybe I'll eat that with this. And I'm just gonna use the plastic wrap to push everything down. That's pushed down enough. Kind of looks like scrambled eggs. Very weird scrambled eggs. So yeah, we will put this in the oven. I put the oven at 375, and I'll just keep checking it. So for some time. Okay, bringing it over. And I guess we could fill it up with some moussey mousse. In this mousse is probably, let me see, I think I remember it being avocado, banana, some heavy whipping cream. I don't remember what else is in here. So I'm just gonna kind of mix it a little bit. I'm gonna put it back into the freezer anyway. Just pour it on top. Either way, you could just use any type of pudding if you want to use a pudding. You could even, I'd say, top it with some fresh fruit if you want. I'm just doing this because I want to use up this faux ice cream that I made anyway. So I'm gonna put this in the freezer. And put this in the freezer for I'd say about maybe an hour and see how it comes out. Okay, we have our I don't know what product, so we'll see what it looks like. There it is. I think it looks all right. Let's be honest, it looks like a hot mess. But hot messes don't matter if they are delicious. So let's take a nice little piece out and see what it looks and tastes like. Not bad. See, a little messy, very dense, but you know, top tastes good. Let's see about the bottom. Really dense, but really good. I really like the flavor because of the melon. Oh, it's also really sweet, which balances out the topping that I put on. That's mostly just chocolate with the banana and avocado. If you were wondering why it looked brown when I said avocado and banana, it wasn't because it had gone old. It's because there's chocolate in it. Mistakes can still be very delicious, and this is one of them. So overall, success for taste, decrease on that for form. Thank you for joining me on this lovely endeavor. It took a little while for it to work out, and I'll see you next time.